Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again for another episode of the Sunday Spin. My name is Vinny G. I'm coming at you from the 6-4. This Sunday and every Sunday, the Sunday Spin is brought to you by our fabulous sponsors. That's Grooves Records in San Francisco, California, Kevin Chanel, and What's Left Records in the 719, the fabulous Ostro Brothers. Much more about them later on today. Happy 2 week to everybody, including my main man right there in the upper left, my friend and yours, Greno. Great to see you, brother. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing fantastic, Vin. Looking good as always, my brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep, always great.
Congratulations before we get started on the brand new single. Really enjoying it.
Thanks, brother. I really appreciate that.
The latest in the Anonymous Collective family.
It's kind of time to get people up and dancing. And that
It
can
really is. World needs it right now.
That can only be done with a funky bass line. And on that note, I want to go to my man over here on the left, Mr. Kyle Henner. Kyle, we go back, man, to the late 80s. I've been actually
late 80s.
And
Sonoma State.
I mean, it's incredible. 4 decades, 4+ decades, my friend. And just a awesome bass player, musician, person. Kyle, how are you, man? Great to see you.
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, it's a total honor, my friend. And I know there's been a lot going on in your musical world. And for those that maybe aren't familiar with your work and stuff, I just want to tail back to the beginning. We always like to do that with folks, and maybe talk about some early musical recollections and stuff. And then we got to get into that all-star band, that power trio that you're in the 90s as well. But what about some early records?
Yeah, way back. I mean, I think like a lot of us, right, at some point, age 12, 13, 14, got the rock and roll bug. It's I actually have a memory of going to summer camp in probably summer, maybe after 4th grade. And there was a counselor cleaning one of the cabins, blasting AC/DC. And that was this seminal rock and roll memory that just kind of set me on this path, I think. Set me down the road to ruin. But that was kind of the moment, I think. And, it just I'm sure you're from a similar position. Once you kind of got the bug, it's hard to shake it. And,
absolutely. And more interesting to the point, same age. That seems to be a very consistent number across the board for most of our guests. So you're right in there with the rest of us.
Yeah, and I played in school bands in middle school and played some piano and stuff, piano lessons. But it was high school when I was starting to get into kind of heavy bands, Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and things like that. And this kid, Dusty, who I met in high school, his locker was right down from mine. He opened his locker and he pulled out this pointy metal guitar. And I was like, "What is that? That's your guitar?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he just kind of picked it up with no amp, obviously, in the hallway and started playing a Judas Priest riff or something. I remember just thinking "You can do that?" And he was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Maybe I should get a bass and we can start a band." And he was like, "Yeah." and that was really it, And then I saved up some money, bought a bass, and just kind of started figuring out how to play and started playing with this guy Dusty, and kind of went from there.
Tremendous. Yeah. And might I ask, at that age, biggest influence as far as bass guitars for you? We don't get
the first one really was with Steve Harris, Iron Maiden. I mean, I think that was the first. I was really into all that 80s kind of metal that a lot of teenagers are into, and the kind of the heavy stuff, not the glam stuff, but and he's, his bass playing just really stuck out. It's kind of loud in the mix, and it's kind of aggressive and forceful. And so that was probably the first one. And then, Geddy Lee, Rush. How can that not be influence if you're a bass player? So that was probably, those were probably number 1 and number 2. The Motown stuff was always there. Just from hearing on the radio when I was a kid, I don't think I even really knew. You just knew, right? It was catchy as hell, and it just it was just in the pocket. And I didn't even know who James Jamerson was probably for 20 years after that. But early on, even going back to being in 7th grade, I always just loved that Motown stuff. And so I think that influence was always there, but it wasn't really explicit. It was just more something kind of subliminal in the background.
Wow. Wow, what a tremendous answer, because Greno and myself have often talked about Motown.
Oh, yeah.
Greno being a drummer, me being a rhythm guitar player, who's always been fascinated by the intricacies of the bass. Much like Chess Studios, you really only heard that in Motown for a long period of time. And you mentioned Mr. Jamerson, and rightfully so. A lot of my friends used to laugh at me in high school because I would listen to Jackson 5 records. But we all knew who was playing bass.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that stuff. I mean, the pocket was just so deep, and just the way all the instrumentation fit together, just, you know, like gears meshing together, you know, and really to support the vocals, right? But it was just like, there was nothing bad on any of those recordings. Like every part that was played was just awesome, and the songs were just, you know, so perfectly crafted and catchy. I mean, I just, to this day, I mean, any of that, you know, that Motown stuff, and just like, you know, it's just awesome.
Amen. What a great thing to hear from a bass player, eh, Grena?
Well, and not just a bass player, but like I said in my description of the show, so excited. Kyle's one of my favorite bass players, and I was thinking back, I'm like, you know, when his band Nuisance would play, he would bring, you know, so a lot of these influences he just talked about. They're a punk rock band, basically punk/country band, alt country or whatever, however you want to say.
Had a little twang in there. Had Andy's twang for sure.
Right. For sure, doing a lot of really cool covers that a lot of folks weren't doing for a punk band, especially. But he would bring these influence into that. Like he was an in the pocket player and played with a tremendous drummer in Jesse Wickman. This rhythm section in Nuisance was second to none. And Kyle, like, I mean, some of these bass lines are just they're quintessential. Sun God. I mean,
yeah,
man.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Jesse, and I mean, he was a huge influence on my playing, right? And he was at a young age very advanced with his drumming, and when, you know, learning to play and really kind of developing as a band and as a musician with Jesse. I mean, it's you know, to this day when I, you know, kind of listen to stuff he played on, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my bass playing is just kind of riffing off of his kick drum right there. That's how I play bass. And he just really helped kind of craft my playing.
Oh, you guys were tremendous. I mean, yeah, tremendous. Now, when I first met you, it was probably 1988, and you had just moved. So did you guys had moved down from Humboldt County? Is that where you guys were living?
Andy and I did. Well, yeah, Andy and I did, and the original drummer for Nuisance, Chris, and Dusty, the guitar player, guy I started playing with in high school. Yeah, I was, you know, we started playing in high school, and then I was kind of college bound, and those guys weren't. And I was just like, okay, I'm going off to college, guys. You know, it's kind of sucks. You know, I'm going down to Sonoma to go to college, and Andy was he was at Humboldt State. He was a year older than me, and he just wanted to get out of Humboldt, and he was like, well, maybe I'll come down there and get a job and go to school part-time. We can keep playing music. And I said, yeah, that'd be awesome. And then Chris and Dusty said, yeah, we don't really have anything to do. Maybe we'll do that too. So they all ended up coming down. Chris and Dusty didn't stick around too long. They headed back to Humboldt after about a year or so. But, you know, Andy stuck around, and then Jesse, who was also a Humboldt alumni, his dad lived in Sonoma County, I think. And so he graduated high school, and he came down to Sonoma County just to get out of Humboldt, and, you know, he had family down there. At that point, Andy and I were looking for a new drummer, and we put a poster up at the Last Record Store, and Jesse replied, we're like, hey, aren't you from Humboldt? Yeah, wait a minute, don't we sort of know each other? Yeah. And that was, you know, and then just went from there.
I saw you guys' first show. I think we played it with you guys. It was at, remember that in that barn that was like, that guy Carl had that.
Oh, Carl Sutton, yeah.
I have, and I think I even have video footage from it.
No way, I would love to see that.
and the thing about it was, from that show, my recollection is, because I had seen the 4-piece lineup and stuff. I think done a show or two at the Sonoma Cafe or something.
Yeah.
And with the Soft Rumors with Rob Ingramson and
totally.
all those folks. But I remember how it was a pivotal thing when Jesse joined.
Yeah.
It was like nothing against Chris or the 4-piece lineup, but you guys, like, even that first show, it's just like the energy. People are just off the walls, and it's like, man, you guys killed it, you know. And then you're doing these off the wall covers, like. And
I often think there's this pivotal moment in a lot of musicians' life when you're young enough to still have that angst and that energy, and to kind of be pissed off at the world, but also just happy and just wanting to be out there and doing stuff. And you're young enough to have that, but you're kind of getting mature enough as a musician to start having a few chops, and you haven't gone so far that you've got so polished with your music that it sounds boring. You still got the angst, but you're developing enough skill to play interesting stuff. And I honestly feel like that's a window in most musicians' life for 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years, and otherwise you just get old and boring, or you develop too many chops and you start sounding cheesy. And there's that magic moment, and I think for me, I really think about it as kind of that, maybe age 19 through about age 24 or something, where it's like you're developing so much as a musician, and you're wanting to play all the time and practice all the time. So you're just growing so quickly. You got that angst, you got that just rock and roll angst, and you just have to do it. And it's a magical moment.
And let's be honest as well. I mean, you're not burdened down with a lot of the same societal
not at all. Very few responsibilities, right? Yeah, right. You don't. Yeah, very few responsibilities. You don't need much money to get by. It's a pretty special, period, and I think most musicians' lives. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
In a way, I would even go as far as to say, if you're lucky enough.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
It's good stuff, man. Hey, we're hanging out with Kiley Henner. He was formerly of Nuisance. Now Trouble Cuts is still around, right?
Trouble Cuts is that's my it's my old man rock band.
Old man rock band. I like that.
Still doing it, man. It's like I said, maybe I don't have the angst anymore, but it's like I think like you guys, you just can't shake it. Got to keep doing it. Yeah.
Exactly, brother. No, I mean more power to you, and it's like. It's great. I mean, the thing is too, is that you're making great music still. Like, it's not, it's like, Nuisance was, for so many of us, was like a quintessential band, like an influential. Think about how many people picked up a guitar after going to Nuisance shows. It was right in that area, like you said, 18 to 24. I mean, even folks like, I'm sure Eric Brittenham, people like that, the Adam Alcorns of the world, like, and the list goes on and on. Nuisance was a really important. Dave Barkley, like Nuisance was an important band for so many like great musicians that I just mentioned.
It's nice to hear you say that. I mean, I think it was really, this magical time. And I think the crew that we hung out with in Sonoma State, right? There's just this big crew of interesting, creative people, right? Like yourself and Rob and your whole crew from San Diego. And then, like you said, the Adam Alcorns and Eric Brittenhams and all that, like just these people that all love music and just, they needed to be creative, and they wanted to kind of be creative and pursue some passions. And it's just like this magical time. I mean, you'll never duplicate that, right? It's kind of a once in a lifetime thing. And I feel so thankful to be a part of that and be in a band that people liked and had this big crew of friends that was into it. It was pretty amazing.
And more to the point, and I want to congratulate you on this, and Greno alluded to it as well. There's a big difference between going out and doing what we're doing and going out and being vital. And I want to congratulate you on that as well, because, not only do you have the past history, but I really believe the music is still very, very vital. We're seeing that down here in a big way. I'm sure you've noticed in San Diego recently. Doors have finally blown off, and I'm seeing friends of our age all out there doing it. It's been truly beautiful.
That's awesome.
It's like a renaissance. It's that renaissance. We're all like in that. We're reliving that early 20s type of thing, and it's great fun. And it was so exciting, man. Like, let's kind of bring folks that don't know is that we're talking about this band Nuisance. There's a wonderful reissue of their first album that just came out, just a few months ago, right, my friend?
Yeah, I think it was, officially started shipping maybe a month ago or 6 weeks
Just
ago.
because with vinyl, you never it's so
Yeah.
tricky. You want to have these dates to, but anyways, when that just, man, I was so excited to see that. And not just a reissue, but a proper remix, because there was something criminally wrong with that first mix. Not against anyone that was a part of it. Maybe it was the mastering, but there was something that was missing, and it was the meat of
I agree. I mean, that mix we were never happy with. And honestly, I mean, it was, we were 21 when we recorded that. And we didn't know how to make a record. And the guy engineering it, Kevin Army, and the kind of producer, and he had his ideas, and we didn't really know or feel confident to kind of disagree with him at times. And that's kind of how it came out. It was like, and then we kind of said, well, this really isn't how we wanted it to sound. And, you start learning how you like things to sound and how to communicate that and how to achieve that. But we didn't know what we were doing then. But yeah, being able to remix it was awesome. It was just kind of a crazy experience.
I bet. And I mean, again, that, as for what I recall, you were the first band that I remember to put out, that I knew, that put out a full-length album. It was like, holy shit, having it in your hands. Yeah. These are friends of ours. These are people that we know. It's like that in itself speaks for a lot, man. And to be able to celebrate that on translucent green vinyl 30 awesome. Years later. Yeah. How did that come about? I'm curious. How did that?
Well, I mean, kind of getting back to, the scene that we were in. I mean, I think Nuisance was fortunate enough. We kind of had this whole Sonoma County crew and scene that included like Sonoma State people, but then also kind of the little scrappy punk rocker kids from Sonoma County. But at the same time, there was this, kind of blossoming punk scene kind of coming out of, primarily the East Bay, right? Gilman Street and all that. And we felt a real kinship with that. And really kind of found our way into that scene. So we were kind of lucky to kind of have this Sonoma County connection, a Sonoma State connection, but also kind of starting to fit in with the whole Gilman scene that was starting to explode. So that was, kind of we were lucky enough to kind of be a band during that time and in that location, kind of having that sound that we kind of fit in these, almost like two different scenes. That was pretty amazing. So how this all came about, you may not be aware, but about 4 years ago, there was this Lookout Records reunion show at Gilman Street it was like 4 days, I think. And this young guy named Alex, who's in his 20s, who's, he was born out, after we were long gone, but grew up in the Bay Area, in the East Bay, and just had this whole connection and love of the whole Gilman Street history and everything. It's been very involved in current day Gilman stuff. So he organized this 4-day show, or maybe even more. Maybe it was like 3 weekends plus an extra day or something, but of all these old Lookout bands. And he, took it upon himself to contact these bands and talk him into reforming, really. And so he reached out to us and said he was doing the show and wanted us to play. And we had been asked about reunion shows off and on over the years, and I never felt right about it. And I don't think any of them really felt right to Andy either. And when this one came up, it felt right. It was like, it was a reunion of Lookout Records bands, like a celebration of them. It was at Gilman Street, and it just felt right. So we agreed to do that show, which was awesome. And Adam came, and Eric Brittenham and Scott McGrath and a bunch of old Sonoma State people. It was great.
It's awesome.
And so we did that show, and it was awesome. And this guy Alex that put the whole thing on, and he was kind of had this little record label he was doing too called Lava Socks. And he contacted us at some point. He said, I'm kind of thinking about reissuing some of this old Lookout stuff. Would Nuisance be interested possibly? And we said, yeah, we would be. So that started it all. So that was about 3 years ago or so, 3 or 4 years ago.
Wow.
And then over the last year, a lot of the old master tapes from Lookout Records and the old, like the artwork and all that for albums, when Lookout Records shut down, a lot of that stuff moved into Green Day's like warehouse. Green Day have some warehouse in the East Bay where they probably keep tons of gear, and all this Lookout stuff was kind of put there in storage. And so this guy Alex and some other East Bay punks kind of went and got this stuff and started sorting through it all. And that included the original multi-track analog tapes for Confusion Hill. And so last year he said, I want to remix it. You guys want to remix it? And we said, yeah. And so we got hooked up with this engineer that Andy's done some work with in the East Bay. Who's kind of done some kind of higher level stuff. He's kind of a pro, and yeah, he remixed it. Andy sat in on some of the sessions, and then he would send us kind of rough mixes. And, we'd download them and comment on them. And got that done. And then they kind of sat on it because I think this guy, Alex, I think he needed to save some money or something to do it. But so we got done with the mixing sometime in the summer, let's say August of last year. And then the record, I guess came out sometime, in January. So that's the story. And there might be more stuff coming down the road. We'll see.
Awesome. There needs to be a singles collection put together. You guys put out some kick-ass singles, man.
That's one of the things we're talking about doing.
Yeah, the Rut, man.
A Nuggets kind of thing.
Nuggets kind of thing. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Nuisance songs.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good. Harvest Time, that version. That's
the original 7-inch Harvest Time is pretty
so
awesome.
kick-ass.
Yeah.
Do you remember the compilation that Rob put out? It was like, and it had like some Nuisance unreleased stuff.
It had the song Another Way.
That's Another Way.
Yep.
Kind
of that Led Zeppelin riff.
Oh my God. Such a signature sound.
I know, it's awesome.
I love it. So Trouble Cuts, Vinny, we want to know about this band, huh?
Absolutely.
The up and comers, just giving them skinny mulligans to run for their monies.
Well, and before you get started, I love the story leading up to it and how there was a public demand for Nuisance to come back, which is just such a beautiful springboard as an artist to give you the momentum for your newest efforts.
Well,
congratulations.
Thanks, man. I mean, I'm amazed 30 years later, there's, people that remember Nuisance, let alone give a damn about
Fantastic
Nuisance.
tale.
So it's pretty amazing. So Trouble Cuts, I mean, it's funny. There's a Nuisance connection in Trouble Cuts. So the main kind of songwriter, guitar player, singer guy, Ed, he played in bands in Northern California that Nuisance played with and was friends with. So he lived in Eugene, Oregon for years and years. And then when I moved to Portland about 20 years ago, I think I might have exchanged some messages online with him in Eugene. And then maybe 10 years ago or so, he moved to Portland with his wife and kids. And then I was in a band back then, and we played a show with a band Ed was playing in. So we kind of reconnected at that show. And then the band I was in split up, and I was kind of looking for someone new to play with, and Ed wasn't playing with anyone at that point. And so it was just kind of natural. Like, why don't you come over? I've got some songs I'll show you. And so that was, I don't know. I mean, that was maybe 5 years ago now, 6 years ago even. And we had a different drummer we played with for a couple years. And then he split. And then Jono, the drummer we're playing with now, that's probably been 3 years now or so, maybe more. And it's, we're all old, got kids and jobs, but, try to get together once a week. And, before COVID, we were playing out maybe once a month, once every couple months. And then, COVID, like a lot of us, we kind of, the world took a break. Played a couple shows. Our first shows, post-COVID were in October. And those were pretty awesome, actually, because all our friends, hadn't been out at a show for a year and a half, 2 years. So all our friends came out, and that was pretty awesome. It's a fun band. I mean, it's just like, like I said, we're all mature adults now. So there's no BS, there's no arguing. There's no egos. There's nothing like that. It's just like, cool. We get together, we write songs, work on songs together. We, kind of exchange ideas when we're working on song arrangements, and everybody's kind of nice and respectful, and everyone's a good enough player. They kind of learn their parts pretty quickly, and it's fun. It's easy.
Wow. That's great.
Fabulous. And the world is thirsty for that kind of
Right.
thing right now.
Yeah.
Like we've been saying all along,
Yeah.
only if, only if, only if. Well, now the day is here.
Yeah.
And
And
we all do get to
honestly,
enjoy it from our own
yeah.
perspective.
And I give this a lot of thought now. I mean, as I'm, this age, that what music means to me and my connection to music, both as a listener and as a performer. And it's I don't even know. I think like even if the world doesn't need it, even if the world doesn't care, when I get together in the basement with my two other bandmates, it's like nothing else matters, right? It's just like it just feels awesome. It's just awesome. Even if you've been working all week and you're tired, and it's like you get down there and you crank it up and you play some songs and it just all fits and feels right, and you're like, oh, this is awesome. This is why I do it.
That's a great answer. Yeah. Fabulous. Definitely. Fabulous.
Was the scene able to survive as far as clubs and bars in Portland? I was curious.
That's a good question, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm not even one to go out very much, in the best of times these days. But I think there's some places shut down, for COVID and aren't reopening. I think the big rock venues, the ones that get kind of big touring bands, most of those still, seem to be in business and ramping back up. I think, like small rock clubs, right, they're always feast or famine, right? I mean, a lot of small rock clubs don't last long anyway. So, I think that's always been the case in Portland. You kind of have, clubs come and go. And I think, over COVID, a lot of them probably went away. But, I'm sure over the next couple of years, hopefully some will be spinning up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be back in the day, clubs would come and go as musical tastes came and went.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now we're facing world disasters, deciding where we're going to be playing. Right. But again, the new appreciation is here, and it's beautiful to be a part of it. Very important to us as part of the show. We want to give you an opportunity to say thanks to the people who have got you where you are. Your shout out time.
Well, shout out to everyone. I mean, like I said, the fact that anyone remembers Nuisance, let alone cares about Nuisance 30 years later, just blows my mind. And I'm so grateful for that. And it really kind of touches me that, three scrappy kids from Humboldt County, from the far, Northern California, did something, not knowing what we were doing, but did something that touched a few people. And, I'm lucky I was part of that. Right. And it was just kind of a matter of being in the right place at the right time and playing music with the right people. It all just kind of gelled. And that's, it was a special moment. I'm grateful for everyone that took part in that and got to enjoy it. It's pretty amazing.
Wow, what a humble man.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Hey, before we go, I want to tie some circles and squares together. Our friend Nikki Royster and her new band, Slippery Slopes, but there will be a change, and you need to go to the show to find out. They're playing this coming Saturday in La Mesa at Dino's Pub. Show starts at 8, and they're going on at 9:30. I think there's 3 or 4 bands. So that's in La Mesa. Right. Shout out to our friend Nikki, also a big supporter of
Nikki
since back in the day as well. And also it's Adam Alcorn's birthday. So talk about
happy birthday, Adam.
So Adam, we love you. Happy birthday, my brother. We're celebrating for you on the Sunday Spin. You're another amazing bass player. One that I got to play a lot of music with, which reminds me, Kyle, before we let you go, I want to speak off the air or maybe an email sometime about doing a project with you, my friend. We've never worked together.
Yeah, let's do it.
Other than some weird jam after both bands or something.
Let's do it. It would be awesome.
Awesome. What an honor. Well, great, man. Again, we couldn't be more grateful. If you could just let people know, too, how to get to Lava Socks. Is that...
Oh, yeah. How to get there. I don't know. Google Lava Socks Records. You'll get there.
Perfect, man.
And that all that reissue Nuisance stuff, it's all streaming on all the platforms, Spotify and any other platform, I think. Pandora, all that stuff.
Awesome. Oh, and then got to do this real quick. So David Andrews... David, hello, Vince and Glenn, and of course to our friend Kiley. And then we have another friend, Carlin Marie, saying, love seeing your faces.
Hello, Carlin.
And Nikki's going to chime in here. Nikki Royster is very cool. Yep, so spread the word about Nikki's show coming up. Awesome. And then from Nikki, What
Nikki?
Hey, Nikki, how's it going?
And we're super
Rock star.
excited. Nikki's doing her thing in music again, and
That's awesome.
also we're gonna have her on the show in I think a few weeks. So
Can't
really
wait.
excited. Yeah, it's got to get some of that girl power each
That's right.
season, man.
Woo.
We got to have, we encourage it. Girls, please hit us up. We had Mr. James Reeder. We're gonna have him on the show. We really encourage people, if you want to be on, let's do this. So many legends out there. It's hard to keep track, but man, we are so honored to have you today here, Kiley.
It's been a pleasure, guys. This has been a lot of fun.
Dude, thank you so much, man. And you guys, we're doing a double header. We'll be back in about a half an hour. I'm going to go get a manicure. Vinny's going to go get a massage. We'll be back.
It's a week for twos, like we said. Thank you, guys. See you in 30.
But thank you guys so much for tuning into the Sunday Spin. Don't go far. Go get a little, dinner, a little snack or something. Be back in a bit. And Kyle, we want to get you back on, maybe with the bandmates.
Let's do it.
Straight that.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm in touch with Jesse, but not Andy. So yeah, man, let's get that going maybe for the season coming up.
Awesome.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you back.
Awesome.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you guys soon.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys. Perfect, brother.